I am Petya Rasheva, a student in the Building Power to Lead course of Professor Jeffrey Pfeffer at the Stanford LEAD. And today I am talking to Analia Troncoso, a Global Vice President, Acquisitions, Divestments, and New Business Development of Shell. Welcome, Analia.
Thank you, Petya. Thank you for having me.
Analia, what you have achieved is amazing. Could you please give us a very brief overview of your career path?
Thank you. So I started my career as a graduate working for Fluor, which is one of the largest engineering, procurement, and construction management companies in the world. As a graduate, I rotated roles, working across a few different projects, brownfield and greenfields, where I did cost engineering, logistics, expediting, contracting, and procurement. So the ability to rotate through various roles provided quite useful in my early career and also helped with my career progression. I then joined a global management consulting firm, A.T. Kearney, where I was supporting senior consulting in the delivery of consulting projects across a number of different sectors: finance, energy, consumer, tech, healthcare, industrial. And after that, I did a couple more years working with another large EPCM firm, where I supported major projects in South America, Argentina, Brazil, and Peru. So after a few years working in the engineering and management consulting sectors, I felt I had gained enough experience that I could add value by working directly for a client or a business owner. And that is when I joined Rio Tinto, which is the largest mining company in the world. I spent 13 years working for Rio, working and living across 5 continents. Again, I rotated through a number of different roles as a commercial, global procurement, corporate strategy, business development, and large corporate M&A roles. After Rio, which was a great experience, that was 3 years ago, I decided to venture into an even larger organization. That's when I had the opportunity to join Shell. And today in Shell, I have global oversight for multi-billion-dollar investments in the energy sector. So each of the roles I held in the companies I worked for over the last 25 years, each role basically was a building block to the next role. So I would say each of those building blocks, each of those roles in itself were an achievement. Without them, I would not be where I am today.
And Analia, looking back, besides using each step as a ladder to the other, what do you think has been critical for you to achieve power?
Yeah. So I want to call it, rather than power, which is, I think, a synonym, leadership and a position of influence. What has been critical to my success? 4 things, I would say. The first one is delivering and being really good at what you do. So again, having exposure early on in my career to what it takes to deliver on a complex project, a complex business venture, working to tight deadlines, often in an environment which is rather unpredictable, that has helped me a lot. And when you're good at that, I think you can do almost anything. You have an ecosystem, a set of conditions that you may or may not be able to influence and change. You have a group of individuals that you need to influence and that you're influenced by, and the relationships between those individuals and the desired outcome. So if you're able to understand and navigate that well, that has been the main key success factor in my career. The second one is having a curious mind. Was you need to focus on what you're supposed to deliver or do, either as an individual contributor or as a team. I always go, basically, I like what I call it peeling the onion. I like to understand the outer layers of what needs to be done, the external potential risks and opportunities. And for that, you need to be able to have curiosity, to understand, to also learn. No matter how experienced an individual is, you always have to learn. So that curiosity and flexibility of mindset has helped me adapt quickly to change, to difficult situations, also to remain calm in times of uncertainty and adversity, and become comfortable with being uncomfortable. And it's that in those moments when basically you need to use creativity to apply it to problem solving. The third is relationship building. I have lived, similar to you, Pedia, I have lived and worked all over the world, probably 5, 6 continents, and I really enjoy embedding myself in different cultures and learning from them. So different cultures also give you basically the exposure to working with different personalities. Some personalities will be similar to you, some others will be completely the opposite, and will make you basically learn and stretch and make the effort. So the ability to work collaboratively, the ability to ask for help, recognize that you don't know it all, and ask for help, and at the same time provide support to others, the ability to connect with people, and the ability to influence and inspire others to get things done. That's very important when you're leading a team. So that's the second factor that has been helpful to my success. The third one is accountability and delivery. And I repeat delivery because for me, it's walking the talk. If you're given an opportunity or you ask to be given an opportunity, be accountable. Don't deflect accountability to others. Be accountable for yourself and for your team. Support them and get it done. Sometimes things don't go as planned. It's okay. You have to communicate when things go wrong, but also from an accountability position. That's very important for an organization of a group of people, for building the trust with them. And also holding others to account. If you have a team, you need to be clear. Make sure that everyone is clear on what they have to do, what they have to deliver, and also hold them to account. And lastly, I would say authenticity. Just be yourself. In my career, sometimes I felt sometimes because I felt that I was culturally different, I felt that in order to fit, I needed to change the way I was, and that never worked. I think people at the end of the day, for building relationships, whether in your personal life or professional, you need to be authentic. They need to know who you are, and that's okay. So being authentic and also open and honest in the way in how you communicate with others.
And once you get yourself into a position of seniority, how do you retain that position? How do you retain power, in your opinion?
That's a very good question. So once you get to the role, all of those, I would say, ingredients or parts of a formula for success, all of that builds what I say credibility. Whether you're a supervisor, your board, and even when I have a person working for me or a team, you need to build that relationship. You need to build that credibility. You need to trust that person is going to deliver and be accountable. So for me, holding, retaining a leadership position or position of power is the ability to maintain that trust with whoever is that ecosystem, your boss, my board of directors. And that is also shown by having a purpose. Some people that reach power, a position of power, because either they know this person or that other person, and they're very good at pushing their individual agendas. For me, that is a very short stint in power, in a position of power of influence. For me, you gain that credibility and you are able to maintain that position where your purpose, your individual purpose, overlaps and links with the purpose of the organization. If you don't share a purpose with the organization, the community, the country that you're going to lead, you cannot do your job well because your focus will be elsewhere. So if you're authentic in your purpose and that purpose connects with the purpose of the organization and the other people in the organization, then basically it's like you click, you connect, they trust you. However, sometimes in a person's career, your purpose changes, Your purpose changes, then I think you will find it really hard to stay in that position of power. You won't be authentic. But sometimes the organizational purpose changes. A good example is when you are politicians that are leading countries. The other important basically point in retaining a position of leadership is consistency in what you do and in what you say you're going to do, and in delivery consistency, and remaining resilient. Things 90% of the times though don't go as planned. It will be hard. So maintaining basically a calmness and building that resilience basically to keep going, even basically when you're going through really difficult times, and yet delivering. That's also very important. And then lastly, I would say maintaining a broad network, both within the organization or group that you belong to and outside. And that's very important because stakeholders change. You can have a group of stakeholders. Usually we have a group of like business school buddies or former colleagues that we connect, and we remain in touch for the rest of our lives. And there are a lot of studies about this. It's very important to always bring new perspectives, new people, broaden your network. And also within the organization, there's people come and go. There will be people leaving the organization, and there will be new people. So make sure that you always stay in touch. It's good to stay connected and always work on your network, broaden it up. Is part, and this links to what I was explaining in the beginning, is that we live in an ecosystem, whether as a member of a society, in your personal life, or in your career. And the ecosystem is about people and how they relate to one another. So working in those relationships, whether old relationships or new, for me is one of the most important things that we can do as individuals.
And Analia, the last thing I would like to ask you, you are a very busy and very active person. How do you rest and recover?
It's very simple, and it may sound like, I'm not adding anything new, but it works for me. The first one is having an active social life. And it's just not my partner or close friends. I always try to learn new things. I'm the type of individual that say, I'm going to do all these things. I have a very long list, and then you end up doing only one, which is fine. I think if for example, whether learning a new language or playing an instrument, or for example, last year I took a cooking course. I'm not very good at cooking, and through the course I learned. I met people from all over the world. It was a course that I did. It was partly in London and in Spain. I met people from all over the world, people completely different, that really enriched the experience, and it was a lot of fun. And then I realized, okay, I need to do this more and more. The other thing that I do is, of course, exercise. And it doesn't need to be, when I have the time, I like going for a run or a swim. And then lastly, and Maria, probably you know me, you know this, travel. I do it as much as I can. There's a reason why I lived all over the world. And so again, it goes back to meeting people from diverse cultures, experience how people live in a different country under different conditions, being weather, being political, being cultural. So for me, that is one of the things that I most really enjoy, and that is about learning how people do things differently in a different context.
Analia, it has been so interesting talking to you. Thank you for this conversation. Thank you on my behalf and on behalf of my classmates at the Stanford LEAD, and have a great day.
Thank you. Wish you all the best.
Thank you.